So it's 5 past, and let's start and give it a go. I have unmuted your mics because it's not really a big session. So if you want, feel free to come off mute if you have any questions, any additions. I'd like to try and add, and get more of a conversation going, as opposed to have a session where I'm just sending what I think you need and you keep on listening. It's better, I think, that we have a bit of a back and forth. And if you have any questions at them, if you have any ideas for things you think like you'd like me to address, yeah, please let me know. And we also have a couple of forum leaders here on the call. So might be that I can learn something. So if you think you have an idea and you can add to this discussion, we can all learn. Just feel free to speak up. This is not me preaching. It's trying to add something of value. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and take a look at the first use case that has been submitted. As an introduction, I should say I'm Jan Rink, JR for short, and I work independently in helping others implement Asana for improving every day, in which capacity I am organizing this webinar. And I have a question here from Maria, and Maria would like to better manage workflows when using forms with selectable options, specifically to assign tasks based on form selection, triggering workflows depending on response. Example, depending on what option is chosen in the form, the task would automatically be assigned to the appropriate person, etc. So the desired outcome is a more streamlined workflow that automatically routes tasks to the correct assignee based on form selections, with specific triggers set up to manage the progression of tasks efficiently without needing to manually intervene. Yeah, I think that is a common request, and a good thing to know how to do is to use forms in order to kick off a workflow. So I'm going to start off by making a new project. I'll do a blank project, and this is, I'll just call it workflow Wednesday. I'm gonna create a board. I have only one team, so I've now added it to the team. But when adding the project, it's always good to pay attention to which team you're adding the project to, because that's where it will live and automatically be shared with. So to make a form, we go to Customize, go to Forms, and it will set up a basic form. Basically, this is defaults to something that anyone can open when they use a web browser. I can select here. It's good to go to settings to see what you want it to apply to. So to do seems like a good fit. We can have some settings here, and the thing we'd want now is to have a selection set up so we can assign the work. I'm just going to go ahead and publish it now. And first thing I'll do now is I'm going to set up a custom field. This is what is needed to get the selection and the subsequent rule to catch who is going to be assigned to this. So I'm just going to say Albus and Harry here. And I'm just going to call this assignee field. I'm going to create the field. And here you can see a little icon that indicates there is a form connected to this. So I can easily go back to the form. And what I can do now is I can go to the field and select this. Or I can say I'm going to add a new question, and I'm going to say I'm going to connect this to a field, which will add the field to the form and make this a required question. So I'm going to be sure that that it will be selected. Save the form, and this will allow us to use the form. So here I can copy the link and go to the form. We have the selection, but now when I select, there's nothing telling Asana who should be the assignee. It's just the field. I can submit this, and it's adding a field, but no one is assigned yet. For this, we can add a rule. Again, we go to customize. Then we go to rules. We add a new rule. Create a custom rule is mostly every time the rule that I use, so I can build it myself. So what I want now is when a task is added to this project, check if the task is added to the project by a specific form, because we're going to tie this directly to Workflow Wednesday, the form we just made. And I'm going to add a condition here, which is going to check for a custom field. So assignee, the assignee field is set to Albus. I'm going to search for change assignee, and I'm going to set Albus here. And I'm going to make a new branch over here. Otherwise, because we have multiple options, check if the assignee field is set to Harry, and if the task is added from this form, I'm going to set assignee field, or not the assignee field, but the change assignee and set it to Harry. And thus concludes our rule. So I'm going to delete this and add a new request. I want to assign this to Harry. I'm going to submit. And now we can see that Harry is automatically assigned. Is everyone following? Are there any questions? I see Stephen joined. Good. Okay, so that was the case that has been requested. Before I have a couple of suggestions of workflows that I can address, but before that, I'm gonna ask you guys: have you got any questions or any workflows you'd like to see me tackle, or perhaps expansions on this? I could also dive into some options to streamline the intake of this workflow. Of Okay, I'm going to check the chat. Handle a case. Okay, Stephen, so how would you handle a case where I want users to go through the same form entry process, but then route those requests to different queues? Excellent question. So I'm going to make a new project. And let's say request type 1. And I'm going to make another project, and I'm going to say this is request type 2. So here is the inbox. I always like to use emojis to clarify where what's happening. Also adds a bit of color. And I'm going to add another custom field. And let's say
you need to share your screen.
Oh, that's why I've unmuted everyone. Thank you. Share screen. There we go. So I've added a couple of projects and called them request type 1 and request type 2. I'm now through customize, I'm adding a custom field. And I'm just going to say 1 and 2, make it a single select and create the field. And based on this, I will go to the rule again. Now I can do, I think I'm going to create a separate rule that adds handling it, transporting it to different queues. So I'm going to make a new rule, and when a task is added to the project, by this form and check if the request type is set to 1, then I will move or add to a project. That's the new rule we're going to add here. And here I can select the project. I'm setting it to adding it to an additional project, which will mean that the task will keep living in the inbox and in the project I'm moving it into. If I want to move it, I need to switch this around, and I can set the default section of this project here. Obviously, I need to make another option when it's added from this form and when the request type is 2, then I am moving it or adding it to another project. And I'm calling it request type 2. And I'm publishing this rule. And now I need to go back to my form and add another question. Now, request type is available here, so I'm just going to select it, add it, and make sure that it is a required question. So this will allow me to reroute. Now that I'm here, a common thing that I'd like to do when you know that requests are only being added from within your organization, it's a hassle to keep typing your name and email. So what you can do is you go into settings. So if this is for anyone within your organization, this can include guest accounts. You can switch the form settings, and this also allows to automatically add people who submit the request as a collaborator, so they can be kept up to date on what's happening. And this will now, the email address, it changes now, and it will be auto-filled. For this reason, I no longer need to ask the name of the person because it's connected to their account. So I'm going to make this a bit simpler, save the form, and I saw another option that I'm going to edit, which if people add multiple requests and you want to enable people to quickly enter multiple requests, add new requests is a handy button. So I'm going to save this. The link will keep working. Oh, I see here, new question. So it doesn't tell me that I'm choosing an assignee here. That's not very good. So I'm going to go back to the form. And although it is connected to assignee, who should this be assigned to is the question that I'm asking. And this is the thing that will be showing on the front of the form. I can add a description, I can add links in the description and all kinds of formatting if I want to clarify my question, but this is quite a simple question, so I'm just going to leave this as is. And the request type, it's automatically filling the request type. I think it the difference that it says request type here is because I chose a different route, because I think then for the latter I chose the fields, and for the former I chose adding a new question. So adding a new question and then afterwards adding a field will give you new question as a default. Saving this, refreshing the form. So I'm going to assign this to myself. I'm going to say this is request type 2, submit. I don't need to fill in my name. I've got a button here with which I can add a new request, and when the request is added, I can see here that it is also added to another project. So for those not familiar with multi-homing, this is not a copy of the task. This is the same task living in different projects. It is one of the most powerful things that Asana can do, because when from whichever project you choose to go to this task, I'm here in request type 2, comment from request type 2. I'll just add this as a comment, and if I go here, I can see the comment. So it will keep up to date. If I mark it complete, everything will be synced. Any questions on this? Okay. So I have a couple of ideas for what I could do, and I'm just going to briefly run through those. What I could do is this is option 1. Could run through a process setup. Our department handles a variety of requests. I want to set up a process for my team and improve the speed with which we can handle incoming requests. Second is switch from email to Asana. We've started using Asana, but our colleagues keep emailing our department. How do we go about switching from email to Asana? Fourth option is we have recurring projects that we'd like to standardize. Desired outcome is an easy to use blueprint for a project. And fourth is the improvement ideas workflows. There are a lot of people with ideas for improving how we work. Currently, we don't have an overview of what the ideas are and no way of prioritizing. Desired outcome here is to have a place where employees can submit ideas for improvement and a process for selecting these ideas and then turning them into projects if we choose to go ahead with these. So the 4 options are: 1 is the process setup. 2 is switch from email to Asana. 3 is a blueprint for a project, and 4 is an improvement ideas workflow. Can you add the number of the case that you'd like to see addressed into the chat? Switch from email to Asana. I've got 2 votes, so I'm going for that. Yeah, going from email to Asana is it can be a tricky thing, or at least it can seem like a tricky thing. And there are a couple of ways that we can go about this. I think one of the most important things to consider is what is an email? An email has a subject and it has a body, and it can include attachments. That's about all there is to an email. So I can set up a very elaborate workflow and add all kinds of rules and customizations, but that is not the minimum requirement that I think you need to switch from email to Asana. So I'm going to go back. And I'm going to use the same form because I've already set this up. Incoming requests. So the thing to take into account is that when you get put the email address here, you will assume that everyone has an Asana account when you use this as an alternative to email. So I'm going to remove these questions here. And what we need are basically two things. Is we need a subject, which is a text field. I'm going to make this required. And I'm going to add a new question, also text. And I'm going to say quest. And it defaults to short answer. So I'm going to expand this and indicate that people can give a longer answer. Going to make this a required question as well. And for attachments, we can do two things. What we can do is we can say, I'm going to add attachment here and allow people to add attachments. Maybe even allow multiple attachments. If you are working in SharePoint or in an online space where you keep your files, it might be good to use a text field instead. And I'm going to say document link here, which will give you a link to the document, and when you click the link, it will always keep the document up to date. So I would advise for basic an alternative to email is this is the minimum that you need. It's just a subject, a body, and maybe a document link as optional. What you can do now is you could set up an auto reply for your email and link to the form. Maybe test it first with a small group before you do that. And an alternative option, because that is quite a forceful way to say, like, we are no longer accepting email. You should click this form, and then people should type their email again or copy it over. A more subtle way to do it would be to email tasks to the project and set up an email forwarding. This could be done in your email client. So when you're in the project and you go here, and for import, you go to email and select this.
Yeah,
This,
you are not sharing again.
oh, thank you. Need to keep reminding to share my screen. I'm going to do this again. Thanks. So at the project settings, I go to import, then to email. And if I select this, I see an email address. Emails mailed to this address will automatically be added to this project. But there is one big caveat that I need to give is for this to work, the people emailing you need to have editor access to the project. just like in Asana, if you don't have editor access to the project, you will not be able to add tasks. So if you don't have a way to circumvent this, if you have commenter access and you'd like to add tasks, you get the email and email it and add tasks anyway. So that's not an option. For this to work, you need to be an editor, either in a team that is added to the project, or be an editor in the project, and then tasks emailed to this email address will be automatically added to the project. As it says here, the subject will be the task name, the body will be the task description, attachments will be attached, and CC will allow to add collaborators. Any questions? How can I navigate through tasks and subtasks easily? That's a good question. So I'll remember to share my screen now. I'm learning. So if a task has subtasks, to go here and add subtask, subtask 1, subtask 2, then you will see this icon popping up in the task. So in the board view, it will allow you to expand like this, and the card gets bigger. I'm not sure if nested subtasks is a thing yet. So I'm going to just test this out. No. So you can only go one level deep. I'm going to switch to the list view, so I can see that it has subtasks here. As opposed to the board view, where you can see, okay, we have a subtask, but there is no icon. In the list view, if a subtask has subtasks, you can see those, and I can automatically navigate to those. So let's say subtask 2 is assigned to me, and I'm going to my tasks. This is automatically adds a suffix behind the task name to indicate this is nested in another task. So here we can see the hierarchy, and the hierarchy is always added here above the task. So this is the task, and this is the project. You can't really distinguish what the if it's a project or if it's a task from this interface, but if you're able to see the project, it will add the project. And if we go one level deeper, sub task, it will add it here. So yeah, if I see it here, the top one is the project, and here will be nestings of tasks and subtasks, which would allow you to move up the entire chain easily. And even go, when I go deep here and I want to go to the project, I can go to the project with one click. So we've set up a process. We can focus on improving the speed with which we handle the incoming requests. We can look at making a blueprint for projects, or have an improvement idea workflow for turning improvement ideas into projects. So that is number one is the process setup, where we focus on improving the speed with which we handle incoming requests, a blueprint for a project, and an improvement ideas workflow to turn improvement ideas into projects. 1, 2, and 3. Which is your preference? Or if you have come up with your own use case. I have a 1 and a 1 as well. 2 votes. That makes it a go. So we have a process here, and we'd like to improve the speed with which we're handling the incoming requests. So I'm going to go ahead and add a couple of sections. So assigned, in progress is basically started and complete. So waiting for, or waiting. This will give us a bit more insights. So there we can add the requests through the form, or we can add the requests manually. And the main thing to take into account here, I think, is what we tend to focus on is the new stuff that is coming at us. So, oh, we have a new request. Someone someone wants something new, so we dive right at it. And I think the best thing to do is to focus your effort on what is in the workflow. The average time it takes to complete a task is dependent on how much work there is that you're spreading your efforts into. If you're spreading your effort over many tasks, and you have many tasks in the process, then it is hard to focus on on finishing your work. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a rule, because I think if I need to filter, yeah, I can't filter the section here. So I'm going to add a rule. No, first going to add a field, and I'm going to create a section field, and I'm going to say this is inbox assigned in progress, waiting, and complete. I'm going to make it single select. For now, I can add a rule. So when a task is added to the project, and or no, I'm going to say when task is in a section, and the section is inbox, I'm going to change the section field to inbox. I can repeat this for all the sections. So when a task is in the section assigned, I'm going to change the section field to assigned. For speed, I'm not going to do this for every section. I'm just going to publish this rule, and I'm going to make a companion rule for this that says when we change the section field, if the section field is set to inbox, I'm going to move it to the section inbox, and I should set up branches for all the section fields. Again, I'm not going to go through all of these to keep some speed into it, as we have a couple of minutes, but this should mean that when I add a task here, there is a rule that's going to set this section field to assigned, and when I switch it to inbox, it will keep the section field and the task field aligned. So an easy way to create focus on the work that has been started is to start to filter the work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to filter on incomplete tasks, because that's a bit more important than the complete tasks. I'm going to add a filter and say the section field is either in progress or waiting. I'm going to remove the inbox here. I'm going to say save view here, which means that if I add a task here, the default view will not make it visible. Only if I remove the filter, then the tasks that are in the inbox and that are assigned will be visible. And if I go to the project, then I won't see the new tasks. I will only see tasks that are in projects or waiting. And this is a way to create focus on the work that has started. So stop starting and start finishing is first see if you can make sure that we finish the work that we've started. This way we're putting our effort into something that has already been started. It avoids multitasking and sees how can we speed up the thing that we've started, and this should increase or decrease throughput time. Now, when you go to the dashboard, this gives you some other information. So we can look at data as completion over time. This is a default dashboard, but if I add a chart here, and I'm just going to say what I'd like to do is I'd like a bar chart, and on the y-axis I would like the time, so time in section, and on the x-axis I would like the sections to be. So this will give you data on how long a task is in a certain section. You could also set the y-axis or y-axis. If you set it to time, you could say time to complete or time in a custom field, which will allow you to make some different calculations. So you could say add a custom field which is started when it started or is defaults to not started, and then you can get more information on how much time does it take from some work that being started to work being finished. Yes, the session is recorded, and if Teams doesn't let me down, then you should be able to review the recording. We are at time now. I have a couple of minutes for questions if you want. And otherwise, I'll conclude. I'll conclude here. So I'm JR Jan Rink, and I help people improve how they work with Asana. So if you're interested in getting my help, shoot me a message. I'm going to put my website over here. And the way I work is I want to make sure that that I improve the way that you work with Asana. So helping you improve and helping you get better at Asana, preferably not the one I can set up your workflows and help with that, but preferably I'd enable you to get better at making workflows and improving your process. Thank you very much.